He was just a normal guy.
Like a bribe, man.
Yeah.
But on that day, he became center of attention of the whole country.
You're always going to be the first one to go.
For some, he was a hero, and for others, a gruesome villain. But in the end, he shocked everyone by doing impossible.
Right, and listen, it was an accident. It was an accident.
Welcome back to Paramount Recapped. I don't have many subscribers, but your single comment is a ray of hope to motivate me.
Excuse me, I can't see where I gotta look.
Unlock the door.
Our story kicks off with a shady character named Ryder, who has a crew of equally sketchy sidekicks, Boshkin, Emery, and an ex-subway conductor, Phil Ramos. Their big plan? Hijack the Pelham 123 subway train in New York City. Not the most glamorous heist target, but hey, everyone's got to start somewhere.
All right, roll through it slow. Extreme caution per the rule book.
The scene is set at 77th Street, where Ryder waits patiently. He's got the calm of someone who's either very confident or very bad at making plans. Once the train fills up with passengers, his team casually boards, looking like they're just there for a regular commute. Yeah, sure. At exactly 1:59 p.m., Ryder makes his way down to the 51st Street station, where he cozies up next to Jerry Pollard, the train's motorman. Jerry, being a guy just trying to do his job, asks Ryder to move so he can see better. Ryder's response? Pulls out a gun, because nothing says, "let me through," like a weapon in your face.
Excuse me, I can't see where I gotta look.
Unlock the door.
Poor Jerry opens the door in full panic mode, only to get knocked out. Talk about a rough day at work. With the train secured, Phil takes over driving, while the rest of the crew waits for their cue, trying not to look too villainous. As the train keeps zooming through the tunnels, the crew gets busy. Boshkin approaches Regina, the conductor, signaling the start of their not-so-subtle hijacking. Phil, on the other hand, asks Jerry for something called a cutting key, whatever that is, like he's borrowing a cup of sugar from the neighbor. Meanwhile, Walter Garber, an MTA employee chilling at his desk, notices something's up with Pelham 123. It's stopped for no reason, but when Walter tries to reach Jerry, he gets nothing but silence. Yeah, Jerry's a little tied up at the moment. Phil grabs the cutting key and goes to work, uncoupling the front car of the train with all the finesse of someone who's done this before, or maybe watched a lot of YouTube tutorials. The crew now controls the train and its passengers. Over at the control center, Walter reports a rogue train on the loose, putting the whole subway system into a freeze. When he tries calling Jerry again, surprise, no answer. Walter's coworker, curious about the drama unfolding, gets no details from Walter, who's suddenly gone quiet like he's the star of a mystery novel. Back on the train, things take a turn when a transit cop comes to check on Phil and Boshkin. Boshkin, feeling threatened, does the logical thing. He shoots the poor guy. So much for keeping it low-key. Chaos erupts as passengers freak out, and Emery fires his gun in the air to get everyone under control, telling them to sit by the windows. Phil tells Ryder about the cop's death, and Ryder steps in, cool as ever, instructing Regina to use the radio and clear out all the passengers except the ones in the first car. Naturally, the cops swarm the station while Boshkin and Phil regroup with Ryder and Emery. The gang's all here. Ryder then orders Phil to cut the power from their location, because what's a heist without a little power outage? Ryder gets on the radio and tells Walter that managing one car is a lot easier than handling 10. Sounds like he's trying to simplify his workload. He also gets Jerry to confirm they've got hostages in the first car. When Walter tries to explain he's not in charge of giving them money, Ryder, ever the helpful guy, tells him to grab a calculator. They want $10 million in cash, delivered by the mayor himself. Please and thank you. Also, Ryder's added a fun twist. For every minute the money's late, someone's getting shot. You know, just to keep things exciting. Walter, who probably didn't sign up for this kind of stress when he took the job, tries to convince the mayor to cough up the cash. Meanwhile, Phil and Emery are setting up internet in the tunnel. Priorities, right? While Ryder hovers over his laptop like he's about to join a Zoom call. Lieutenant Cam and Eddie from the NYPD arrive at the control center to figure out what's going on. With 48 minutes on the clock, Walter's still passing along Ryder's demands. But before Cam and Eddie can chat with Ryder, Johnson, Walter's boss, tells him to clock out and go home. Yeah, because that's totally the right time for a coffee break. Shocked, Walter leaves quietly, but things go south fast when Cam and Eddie try to negotiate with Ryder. Finding out Walter's been sent home makes Ryder flip out, and to prove he's serious, he kills Jerry on the spot. Talk about not getting a severance package. Ryder cranks up the heat, changing the timer from 60 minutes to 60 seconds between hostages dying, unless Walter gets back on the mic. The cops scramble to pull Walter back in. When he returns, Ryder calmly tells him there's now only 39 minutes left before things get ugly. While the city rushes to scrape together $10 million in cash, like it's loose change, Cam and Eddie dig into Walter's past and discover he's under investigation for accepting a $35,000 bribe. Ryder's loving it, watching the Dow Jones plummet on his laptop while his crew starts to get a little shaky, especially Phil, who's seriously regretting his life choices right now. Cam and Eddie grill Walter about his connection to Ryder, wondering why this guy seems obsessed with him. Meanwhile, Ryder is digging into Walter's shady past online. When he confronts Walter, the poor guy admits to being accused of taking a bribe, but says it's still under investigation. Ryder's not satisfied and demands the truth, threatening to kill another passenger if Walter doesn't fess up. Under pressure, Walter cracks and admits he took the money to pay for his kid's college tuition. Well, nothing like a heartwarming confession to save a life. One passenger even gives him a heartfelt thank you for spilling the beans. As the clock ticks down, the mayor finally caves to Ryder's demands for a ransom. The cops jump into action, preparing to get the cash ready. Meanwhile, Leo, one of the hostages, pulls off an unexpected move. He somehow gets his laptop connected to the internet from inside the tunnel. Using this new connection, Leo manages to video call his partner and even gets the call streamed live online, with the news outlets quickly picking it up. This clever trick gives the control center a live feed of Ryder and Phil, providing a closer look at what's going down. With the situation in full swing, Cam and Eddie bring Walter back in, throwing him right into a crash course on hostage negotiations. Things get even more heated when Ryder offers the mayor a trade, his life in exchange for the safety of the hostages. But the mayor isn't having it and rejects the deal, leaving Ryder furious. He makes it clear that the ransom better already be on the train, or people are going to start dying. Walter jumps in, trying to calm Ryder down, assuring him the money's on the way. Meanwhile, Cam and Eddie are digging up more dirt on Phil, finding out he's a convicted felon who did time for manslaughter. Things take a turn when the car carrying the ransom crashes, delaying the delivery. When Walter tries to bluff Ryder, saying the money's already there, Ryder doesn't buy it. He's tracking everything on his laptop like a hawk. Walter tries to keep the conversation going by asking about Ryder's connection to Phil, while Cam and Eddie quietly get their team ready to act. But Ryder cuts the chat short, too eager to get his hands on the cash. Another disaster strikes when the final police car with the money crashes too. Ryder snaps and threatens to kill 7 hostages, including the mother of a little kid. One of the passengers, a former soldier, steps up and offers himself as the next victim. Even with Walter pleading, saying the crashes were accidents, Ryder coldly executes the soldier. Chaos erupts when a sniper accidentally discharges his weapon after being startled by a rat, killing Phil in the process. Enraged, Ryder radios Walter, demanding another life for Phil's, and in a surprising twist, insists that Walter deliver the ransom in person, giving him a 7-minute deadline. Cam, Eddie, and Walter scramble to get a helicopter to transport the money. Once they land, they make sure there's a radio line to the train, and an officer leads Walter toward the hijacked train. Before Walter heads off, they hand him a gun, complete with a crash course on how to use it. Meanwhile, back at the control center, some background on Ryder finally comes in. Turns out, Ryder's real name is Dennis Ford, and he's fresh out of prison, having served time for fraud. He was once a manager at a private equity firm and got caught up in an investment scam. When Walter delivers the cash, Ryder forces him to stay on the train, making him operated down the tunnel below 33rd Street. Despite his reluctance, Walter has no choice but to comply. But just as things seem to be moving along, Ryder spots some red lights that might stop the train. He urgently radios Cam and Eddie, demanding they switch the lights to green. When they reach 33rd Street, Ryder and his crew, along with Walter, get off the train, but not before Ryder rigs it to keep going on its own, causing more panic. Walter manages to slip away at a railway crossing and decides to tail Ryder quietly. He follows him to track 61 under the Waldorf Astoria Hotel. Meanwhile, Ryder splits from his crew, leaving Boschkin and Emery behind. The runaway train continues to speed ahead, throwing passengers into chaos, but miraculously, it stops just in time before reaching Coney Island, saving everyone on board. The cops, thinking Ryder's still on the train, are shocked when they realize he's vanished. Cam and Eddie piece together that Ryder's likely headed for the Waldorf Hotel via the Roosevelt Spur. Ryder, having successfully slipped away, hails a cab, unaware that Walter is still on his tail. Boschkin and Emery aren't so lucky. They get cornered by the police and decide to go out guns blazing, which ends in their deaths. Meanwhile, Walter steals a car to keep chasing Ryder. It's then revealed that Ryder's scheme has earned him a staggering $307 million. As Ryder relaxes in his cab, enjoying his victory, Walter isn't far behind, calling 911 to tip off Cam and Eddie about Ryder's location. A lucky traffic jam slows Ryder down, giving Walter and the cops time to catch up. The final showdown happens on the Manhattan Bridge, where Walter confronts Ryder, gun in hand. Ryder taunts Walter, daring him to shoot within 10 seconds or be killed himself. With no other choice, Walter summons the courage and pulls the trigger. As Ryder takes his last breaths, he strangely compliments Walter, calling him his hero. Walter watches as Ryder dies at his feet, while Cam and Eddie look on from a helicopter above, approving of Walter's bravery. In the aftermath, the mayor publicly praises Walter for stopping the hijacking, even offering help with Walter's previous bribery scandal. Overwhelmed but relieved, Walter shakes the mayor's hand, grateful for the turn of events.